So, Aston Martin, it's not been a good preseason testing, has it? Usually at this time of year, the team, the drivers, there's usually at the bare minimum a cautious sense of optimism. So some positivity going into the first race of the season. With Aston Martin, that's definitely not the case. One of the worst preseason testings periods that we've seen by a team in quite a few years. I'm not going to say that it's 2019 Williams bad because I don't think it's quite that level, but it has been quite poor. Normally, I would start talking about drivers, start talking about team personnel, but Aston Martin's preseason testing has been so bad that instead I'm actually going to start with some headlines. These headlines, courtesy of the race, these are just the two on the closest to the top of the page of their homepage. The disastrous Honda F1 spiral that Aston Martin is now trapped in. And the second one is Gary Anderson, test disaster is the kick Honda needed. And obviously the two key words there that are in both titles are one, disaster, and two, Honda. And again, it seems like for Alonso, this may be a case of deja vu. We'll talk about the car, the issues with the engine in a second, but this is a team that I want to take a look at the driver line because it is interesting, and this could unfortunately all of these bad signs here could very well mark the end of a very illustrious F1 driver's career, and that of course is Fernando Alonso, their number one driver of this team. Now for Alonso, 44 years of age going into this season, no doubt about it, he's definitely getting up there in age. This is his 23rd season in Formula One, and it's not the first where he's had what looks like a underperforming Honda power unit. 425 starts, the most in F1 history. How many will he add to that this season? And 2,393 points. Of course, double world champion back in 2005, 2006, 20 years ago now, since Alonso's last title, I should say. Joining him, of course, on the other side of the garage is, of course, none other than the owner's son, Lance Stroll. Stroll Jr. from Canada, 27 years of age. This is his 10th season in F1. I dare say about 7 or 8 more seasons than he probably deserved. 189 starts, 325 points, and a career best of 10th in the Drivers' Championship, which he achieved in 2023. And may I remind you, that's a season where Alonso finished 4th in the Drivers' Championship. So not really much of an achievement for Stroll. Basically just got a very good car and just kind of putted along in that said very good 2023 Aston Martin car. Now, when we look at more career stats for both their drivers, for Alonso is very illustrious, and I think really a case of what could have been had he had better machinery. 32 wins, 22 poles, 106 podiums. For Stroll, a little bit lucky, but again, he has had some really good races over the years. No wins yet, of course, but he does have 1 pole position from Turkey 2020 and 3 podiums. When you look at advanced stats, career points above expected for Alonso, one of the best career stats of any driver in this category. 118%, very good there. For Stroll, a bit below average, 86%, not awful, but not particularly good either. Now, when you look at career quality rating, career race rating, big negative number in the career quality rating is a very good. Big positive number in that category is not so good. And race rating other way around. And of course, I have their ranking as well since 1995. For Alonso, one of the best of all time, so it makes sense that he does very well in both categories. Quality rating negative 0.395, which ranks 10th. For Stroll, positive 0.314, so quite a bit below average, ranks 85th. Race rating for Alonso, one of the best of all time, or I should say one of the best since 1995. Would be a better way of saying that. Positive 1.107, ranks 5th. And for Stroll, again, not great here, even though he does have a reputation of being a better racer than qualifier. It's still not great, negative 0.216, which ranks 78th. So those are their two drivers, Alonso and Stroll. We expect Alonso to get the lion's share of points if this team even gets any points this year. But again, that's something that we'll have to talk about in a bit. So, of course, the Aston Martin team during their time in F1, basically since 2021, when Lawrence Stroll basically bought quite a big amount of shares in the Aston Martin, the car company, put that car company name on the F1 team, and of course it's basically been a constant, what feels like conveyor belt collection of talent. Since then, with somewhat limited results. First it was Dan Fallows, then it was Mike Crack, then it was Andy Cowell, then it's Adrian Newey, and again, that's kind of where we are right now. Adrian Newey, of course, is team principal of this team. A bit of a surprise that he was named team principal, and it's his first attempt at being really the head boss of the F1 team, of course, below Lawrence Stroll. Chief Technical Officer Enrico Cardile, he's obviously pretty well known in F1 circles. Chief Trackside Officer Mike Crack, so he kind of makes his return to the F1 public sphere. Chief Strategy Officer Andy Cowell, I guess he's going to be in charge of the strategy and making sure what strategy Honda has to recover from this disaster of a start. And of course, they are using Honda engines, the only team on the grid using said Japanese engines, and that's obviously been a big talking point so far this season. Now, looking at their 2025 results, these were, again, 2025 I think was a bit of a step down. It was definitely worse in 2024, which in itself was a step back from 2023, and this is a team that's basically gone backwards each of the last 3 years. So these 2025 results, if the 2026 team can get these results, I think they'd actually be pretty happy with that, given where things are right now, which I think shows just kind of the negative slide that this team's been on the last 3 or 4 years. So last year, they were basically 7th across the board. They got 89 points, 7th in the constructors, 7th fastest car over 1 lap, just shy about 1 second, I should say. And then average minimum finishing position 9.13, not great. I would say definitely a lower midfield team. And again, they ranked 7th in that category too. When you look at this factory in the record in the first year of a new set of regulations, it's not great. 2005, of course, they were Jordan that year. They finished 9th with 12 points. I believe almost all those points came courtesy of the 2005 Indianapolis Grand Prix, so not a great achievement there. 2009, I believe that was their second season as Force India. They were not a great car that year, with the exception of Spa and Monza for whatever reason. Again, finished 9th out of 10 teams, 13 points there, and that was, the old rule set. So again, points, 12, 13 points is actually more than you would think it is based on the current point system that we have. 2014, of course, they did benefit from the Mercedes engine, but they were one of the slower teams with that Mercedes engine. Ended up 6th, 155 points. They were still behind McLaren, still behind Force India, or still behind Williams, I should say. Of course, on top of the Mercedes Works team. That is something that did improve as the years went along, and by 2016, 2017, they were in pretty good shape. But still, they definitely started those regulations out relatively slowly. And then 2022, as Aston Martin finished 7th, 55 points. Not a great car that year. It definitely felt like it was a step back from the year before, and it was also a car that really struggled in qualifying. So all in all, this is a team that doesn't have a fantastic record in the first year of a new set of regulations, and what we've seen so far in 2026 kind of is another kind of point on the graph highlighting that this is maybe not, this may not be Aston Martin's year. So before we get to predictions for qualifying and the race, I want to talk about the car and talk about the engine. So one of the big issues with Aston Martin in 2026 so far is that it's been very slow in testing. In terms of fastest laps by teams, I believe this is just, these numbers I'm looking at, I believe are, they might be, I think these are all, so this is just a Bahrain test. And so there are 2 drivers, Stroll and Alonso, come out at 21st and 22nd out of 22 drivers when it comes to fastest laps. Stroll, 3.9 seconds off the fastest time, which was set by Charles Leclerc. Fernando Alonso, 4.5 seconds off of the fastest time, again set by Charles Leclerc. So not great there. The 2 slowest times, and again slower than Cadillac, which is a pretty bad news because Cadillac is a brand new team. When you look at lap counts, this is also not very good. Aston Martin are in dead last in this category, 128 laps. That's about 140 laps or so less than the next worst team, which is again Cadillac. So all in all, it's been a pretty disastrous test for Aston Martin. Issues include the fact that it seems like it's a very unreliable car, can't do very many laps. Number two, the Honda engine's quite slow. Number three, the Honda engine can't be run at full speed for any kind of meaningful distance without concerns of the engine going kaboom, so that's also not good. And issues that we've seen since Barcelona have been that they've basically been going, not full speed down the straights. So again, that's generally not ideal, I would say. So again, you have all these big issues here with the Honda engine. Of course, Honda, when they announced that they were leaving F1 in 2021, I think it was, their engine department basically got completely ransacked by everyone else, because everyone's like, oh, these are very talented engineers, let's bring them on board for our respective 2026 projects. And then a couple years later, when they announced that they were rejoining in 2023, I think it was, with Aston Martin, they then had to build up their engine division from scratch again. So not completely unexpected that Honda would be struggling, but I do think the extent to which they're struggling has been a bit of a surprise. So again, we shall see how things go for Aston Martin in 2026. One piece of bad news for Aston Martin is that the engines have to be homologated by the start of the season. So whatever spec of engine they decide to put on for, basically this deadline, which I believe is in early March before the first race, that I suspect that Honda will have to run with for the whole season, again, as a cost saving measure. And I don't think they're going to be able to get covered, anywhere close to the entire deficit to, I would say, your Mercedes or your Ferrari engine. So I think Aston Martin is going to be running an engine deficit for the whole season, but there are a lot of other issues with this car as well that could, in theory, be fixed as the season goes along. So I don't think it's completely lost, but I think realistically, in terms of best case scenario, maybe best case scenario, this team can maybe be 7th or 8th in the constructors by the end of the year. But I think any, hope of, Alonso competing for the championship this year, I think that's basically dead at this point. So finishing up with some predictions for the drivers. Obviously, this is a driver lineup that we've seen for quite a few years now. I think this is year 4 of Alonso and Stroll. So it's kind of a known quantity, and I don't really expect much to change. Although that being said, if this is a car that's really, really slow and points are really hard to come by, Alonso might just kind of mentally check out, much like he did in 2015, last time he drove an underperforming Honda engined car. And again, that might actually favor Stroll and allow Stroll, if Stroll is still motivated himself, he might actually, have the motivation to pick up a point or two here or there, whereas Alonso is kind of just checked out, which is very much a possibility. But anyway, median qualifying gap, not a big surprise here. Alonso expected to outqualify Stroll by about 0.3 of a second. And then for race performance, assuming that this team gets 500 points, which is a standard cutoff that I used for all the teams, but after preseason testing, I should say, not looking like a very good prediction for the Aston Martin. I don't think they're going to even get 100th of that, very possibly. But just imagine, we pretend that preseason testing went well for Aston Martin. This team scores 500 points. Alonso would be predicted to score 57.7%, and Stroll would get the remaining 42.3%, and that would basically come out at about a 77-point difference in Alonso's favor. I think, at this point in time, it looks like it's going to be a tough year. And if this is a bit of a disastrous year for Aston Martin, I could definitely see Alonso choosing to walk away at the end of the year, which would be a bit of a shame for, an all-time great to end his F1 career on such a low, but we shall see. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.